Bruce, a little while ago, you mentioned the Kiss Unplugged, which was obviously such a hugely pivotal moment in Kiss history. I was actually there. I was actually at the taping, and I knew what was coming with Ace and Peter coming out, and then you guys all playing together. A few weeks ago on this show, I did something where I asked the audience about their favorite live albums, and Unplugged, of course, Alive came up predominantly, but Unplugged came up a lot. And a lot of people also referenced, of all the Kiss live albums, Unplugged is probably the most actually live, which,
yes,
having been at the taping, is pretty true, right?
Absolutely. Very, very pure. And the only bit of work that was done, I remember it's really hard for two drummers that don't play together, okay, Eric and Peter. So I just remember that was one thing the engineer was able to like make much more natural. But yeah, probably the majority of it was just there, which I'm very proud of that performance from everyone. It might have been my last gig with the guys, but it certainly was going out with a bang for sure.
Well, there ties into my question. Did you feel after that night was done that what was going to happen happened? Were you told? Were you tipped off? Were you prepared for it? When Ace and Peter walked out, was your gut like, I don't know if this might be a train that's going to go running without me? I mean, what is your recollection of exactly how that felt for you?
First of all, the reaction from the crowd was exactly what I expected. How could it not be? It was just really, really momentous for the original four to be there, and there was such a fantastic production on lights and MTV and everything. So that part of it, I thought, made a hell of a lot of sense. Because almost for 2 or 3 or maybe even more years, there was always a little rumor, or this I would hear, or that I would hear it. And I'm not saying I'd ever hear it from Gene and Paul. It would be much, much more just something where a fan would share that, oh, Ace is going to be back, or you get what I mean? So in that way, because I always felt like, well, every year that I continued from when I joined was a blessing to me, because I never really expected 12 years. Okay, I didn't know what would happen to the band. I didn't know when maybe makeup would return and it would be time for the reunion. But I certainly always understood that feeling. So did I feel it more from Unplugged? Maybe a tiny bit, but we carried on. We went into the studio to record Carnival of Souls. Although I do have a great story with that, was the fact that we're always writing music. And I remember asking Gene, because I knew they were going to go with Toby Wright. We already recorded a song to get the advance from the record company. And even though I'm not involved with that business, I know when we went in the studio to record something, it would be to show the label, we're committed, we're going to do an album, okay? And ironically enough, we were cutting a slightly different version of I Walk Alone, okay? But it was still, I Walk Alone was what we cut. And that way the label goes, okay, here's money towards recording your record. And I remember there would be this long lag in what happened. Like, where's the date for when we start with Toby? And I remember calling up Gene, unbeknownst to me, of course, they're dealing a lot with the legal wrangling of how to put together this tour that got offered from the MTV thing. But later that day, after I mentioned it to Gene, all of a sudden he calls and gives me dates. But I thought it was kind of funny for me to prompt him. You follow what I mean?
Dates to go out on what would have been a Carnival of Souls tour?
No. To go book the studio to start recording Carnival of Souls.
Right. See, I got the timeline screwed up because for some reason I thought some of Carnival of Souls was done leading into Unplugged. No. I thought the record was done.
Demos.
Maybe a song was. Demos.
So August, what was it? August something. There's a fan out there who knows.
It was the day after my birthday. It was the 9th. I remember.
There
it's
the
only reason why I remember the date. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
All right. And I did not know you were
the
there.
Day before after, but yeah,
right.
I was there.
I didn't know you were there, Eddie. That's wonderful. Actually, it was really a wonderful night for everybody.
Yeah.
No, that was August. Obviously, they put it together. That took months, right? I don't think it came out till Halloween, I believe. But we were in the studio sometime in the late fall. And then we were always recording demos, okay? So that's where you might, and believe me, I may not be accurate with exact months and dates, but I'm telling you the order. Nothing was recorded before Unplugged, but a lot of demos were done, okay? But the taping of Unplugged, I'm not talking about the release. So we're in the studio, let's say November, December. I have video of me wearing like a Santa hat and my birthday on the 12th of December in the studio recording at Music Grinder. You get what I mean? but it was in January was when there was some odd times in the studio recording Carnival of Souls where I remember they, you know, sometimes some phone calls Gina Paul would have to take, which usually wouldn't have happened during a recording thing, you know, and they made sure it was private, which I respected because I didn't want to know that the reunion was happening. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But at a certain point, I think once everything fell into place for them, they had Eric and I go up to Gene's guest house, and that's when they laid out the reunion tour plans and said, we're going to finish this record, of course, but this is what's going to happen. We're going to announce it in March. And Eric was more in shock than me, but either way, it was a big change in my life, but that was, you know, what was supposed to happen. I never look back at that in an angry way. I look back at it as like, I knew it was going to happen sometime. Of course, Carnival shows got shelved. Of course, Carnival of Souls got bootlegged, and then the copies out there were terrible, you know, and you know the rest. But it came out. Paul told me one day when I said to him, it's never going to come out. He said, no, it's going to come out. Mark my words. And he was right. The final sessions, okay, I get it. And for some of the fans, oddly enough, they love it, you know, really love it. So thank you.